but with all the fairing off I can get into it intimately. Hello. This time on CrashTestDummyTV. Alright, I've got it all to bits and it's going to need another wash. Look at that. That hasn't been apart in years. Now, there's a few things extra I've got to write on. One of which is this bolt here. It's the fairing sits on top, bolts onto that ring. Now the bolt itself is okay, but the end where the Allen key went in actually stripped, it jumped. So yeah, I have to get another one of those. Otherwise, it's all to bits, all ready and waiting to get pulled out and cleaned again. But with all the fairing off, I can get into it intimately. Everything's stripped off. I've taken it back outside, given it a really good scrub. Everything, there's still remnants, you know, bits where wires I didn't want to take off, etc. But you can see by this mess here, you know, if I wipe it off, it was caked in grime everywhere. I could actually get a rag in there and get that a little bit better. Anyway, yeah, it just, yeah. Fair enough. I know he was always keen on you know, checking his lubricants and making sure his water was up and brake fluid, that sort of thing. Even though brake fluid was really low. Yeah, no, I know the guy who owned it, and he did maintain it very well. But in a lot of the ones here, trail bikes, some of your adventure bikes, they have your oil inlet up here. Really hard to get to. I've modified my funnels with a bit of tube, whether it be rubber tube, clear tube, whatever. I've got a few funnels. Makes it a lot easier to get in there. But yeah, he's overflowed here, which has run down here, which has run down here, here. Top of the motor was dirty, blah, blah, blah. Now, that's no fault of his. It's a 1995 bike, and it's had probably 2 or 3 owners in its life. So, you know, everybody could have spilt it, but it is a good thing. I've always liked buying bikes that are covered in not dry dirt or dust. You want oily dirt and your dirty dust, because the oil locks everything in. As you can see, that frame is beautiful. It's nice and shiny. It's alright, it's got some dirt still in there, but overall I'm very happy with it. Other things I've done, I gave the forks a bit of a polish, just a bit of a metal polish, because you want to keep them clean. The bottom ones naturally will keep clean themselves, at least up to half to 2/3. You want to keep them clean purely because you don't want dirt getting into your seals, because that'll reduce the life of them. Now this top section never gets cleaned by anything a lot of the time, unless you are one of those people that get in there. I make a habit, keep these polished. It gets dusty over time. I've seen a lot of bikes that I'll buy them second-hand, or I'll work on them, or whichever. This section here is, you can always see the surface rust, the pits, that sort of thing. Whereas down this section is always cleaner. The top, that's where you get your pits, but, you know. Anyway, you get the idea. Keep them clean. What else? I've taken that panel off there, given it a spray. It's a collection point for water. When it's on its side stand, you've just washed it, or it's in the rain, it's a collection point for a little bit of water there. So a little bit of rust on that plate, surface rust on the rest, on the edges, so I just thought I'd trim it up a little bit, make it neater. I still have yet to clean all down here, all on the frame itself, but once again this is going to protect it. Something about the oily dirt too. It kind of helps with chips, stone chips. Maybe they dint off better. Anyway, it's probably a lesson there to keep your bike dirty. Groovy. I've got a scrub all down there, all inside there. The monoshock, the spring itself. If I give it a wipe, yeah, you can see some shine there now where there wasn't. The rear swing arm itself I've got to get into. Basically I've got to get into the hard bits. But that's the only cleaning I have yet to do. And I can put everything else back on top. Well, tank at least. Yeah. Anyway, I've still yet to do the sprayed clutch. The one-way starter bearing. Sprayed clutch, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, that's got to be done, but at least it starts, it runs, may not idle too well, just because of that clunking. But that will be fixed, and she can sit on it at least. Groovy. Groovy, groovy, groovy. It's come up really well, actually. Cleanliness-wise. I found a cigarette plug in the back here. It wasn't wired up, so I'm going to wire that up and make an accessory point somewhere. I may actually put one up the front as well. We'll see how I go. So what else have I got to do? Oh, check the brakes. The rears are fine, fronts need doing. Fronts look as though they've got a bit of oil on them anyway, so I want to pull that caliper off and give it a good clean, get rid of the grade grime, whichever. I did break this on the door on the way in, but I had to replace the left anyway, so I've got to get a pair of indicators. I've got to tighten that rear light. Apart from that, just put it back together. I should give it a good service, drop the oil, because I don't know when it was last done, and it would be a good thing to have it done before the new owner, just so they know its starting point. Groovy. Alright, I'll keep on going. Oh, that's the other thing. I'm going to get a can of this stuff. That stuff. New bike in a can. And turn this second-hand bike into a new bike. Yeah, before I put everything back on, the plastics, all that sort of thing, I'm going to give it a bit of a spray, just to brighten them up a little bit. It will help here, but I want to give those a scrub first. Get rid of any of that milky, white, aged, you know, radiator. I don't know if I'm going to spray that. I don't know. 2 bolts and it's off. A couple of hoses. See how I go. Might do it. Anyway, that's enough waffling on for this stage. Stage 3 or 4 or whatever we're up to. Yeah, I've got my work to do. I'll keep on doing it. I know some of you people like to watch, but I like to do it in secret, in private, behind closed doors. Giggity. So I'm going to stop filming at the moment. I will pick up in some points. Yeah, I've got a little bit of condensation inside the gauges. I did give it a good clean up behind here. It's full of dust, etc. All in the terminals. So what I probably should do while the girlfriend's out is go and steal her hairdryer and get in there and give them a good dry. I've got some time. I'll do that next. Groovy. Let's start the operation. Dum, 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 dum. Get the hairdryer. Should you accept this mission, this message will blow up in 5 seconds, 4 seconds, 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second. undo. Thank you. How do you work this? Like that. And I'll give it a dry for a bit, but I won't bore you. I don't want you to watch. Whoa. Plastic, so I've got to watch it. And I can see it disappearing already. Anyway, I'll continue with this. Speak to you in a bit. Lovely. So yeah, groovy.